Civil War is out in theaters, latest film from writer-director Alex Garland, who made movies such as Ex Machina, Annihilation, and Men. This one stars Kirsten Dunst, Wagner Moura, Kaylee Spaney, and Nick Offerman. Garland has stated that he intends to take a step back from directing after this film, focusing again solely on script writing, which I think is a shame because his movies are pretty great, and this is no exception. The story takes place in near future USA, which for 14 months as of the beginning of the movie has been in a state of civil war. We never learn specifically what led to this, what happened, what was the exact reason, how the war looked like, etc. What we do know is that the president, who is a third-term president apparently, breaking the US Constitution, is clearly a fascist dictator. He's losing the war now. The insurgents, consisting mainly of the Western forces of California and Texas, have surrounded DC, and the end seems inevitable. And we follow a group of war journalists who are racing from New York to DC in order to reach the White House and talk to the president, interview him and take his picture before he is executed for his crimes. They're chasing a story through many, many dangerous situations. So I saw that the film got a mixed response from audiences, with some people online complaining that it doesn't go in depth on the nature of the conflict, what it's about, and is very surface level in its politics. And I have to say, I completely disagree with such opinions and think that people who have them have misunderstood the movie. Because to me it's clear that Garland is not interested in political commentary. He's not interested in drawing parallels to the current political climate in the US and sending a warning, as it were. In fact, I'd say choosing California and Texas to be allied together in the film was a sign of deliberately not making this about any specific political subject. Now, what the film is truly about is two things, in my opinion. First of all, it's about life and death in an active war zone. It's about how it feels to be in a war-torn country and how we as Westerners view such conflict through the lens of journalism and our reporters on the ground. But what's clever about it is it isn't some Middle Eastern country this time around, or Vietnam or Ukraine. It's the USA. And with this being an American film, made primarily for American audience, I think that's the way you have to view it. You get the eerie feeling of it being presented pretty much exactly the same as those overseas conflict, but at home. And this makes for an unsettling viewing because you see these nameless people shooting at each other and hating each other and committing atrocities to one another despite being from one nation. And often you don't even know which side anyone is at, which are the president loyalists and which are the insurgents. But again, it's at home, so you get a completely different feel for it. It's no longer this distanced view of an outside observer. It's rather, or maybe it still is a distanced view because of the journalist's presence, but somehow it feels wrong. It feels like it shouldn't be a distanced view, like it should be covered differently. And this brings me to the second theme of the film, the more important one, which is war journalism and its morals in its sort of modern form. The movie is a fantastic critique of it, but crucially a critique that is not blind to the arguments for its nature. Lee, played by Kirsten Dunst, explains in the film that a war journalist has to take a sort of neutral position, that they don't judge, they don't have opinions, they don't take sides or actively participate in any way. They just record for others to see and for others to do something about it, which kind of makes sense until at the beginning of the very first New York scene, we see Lee walking over corpses of people who were just killed by a suicide bomber, and she's photographing them like it's a regular day for her. And it's a very unsettling image, and there's definitely a question of, shouldn't she be helping somehow, tending to the wounded? I mean, how far can you go and remain neutral before it's unethical? And the movie takes it further then, making it clear that these journalists are not actually in service of some grand purpose, of truth. They are adrenaline junkies, especially Joel, played by Wagner Moura, who, and these adrenaline junkies, they are doing what they are doing for their own personal glory. They want to get the story, get the interview, get the best picture, do it before others do. There are chilling scenes of Joel laughing with the insurgents shortly after a shootout as they're rounding up survivors from the other side to be executed. And he's not distressed by it. He's excited and pumped that he was there in on the action. Lee is different. She's like dead inside. She outwardly keeps speaking about the journalist's purpose, etc. But you can see she doesn't even believe those words anymore. She's not sure why she's doing the things that she's doing. And that is driven home by her relationship with Jesse, the young protege who idolizes Lee. Lee says at one point that she hoped her work as a war journalist in other countries, abroad, would make people understand and stop wars. But here she is, not only covering it at home, a war at home, but seeing a young person excitedly starting a career following in her footsteps, which Lee would probably prefer not to even exist as a concept, for new war journalists to not be a necessary profession. I could go on and on about this, but I think the movie opens up an incredibly fascinating discussion about these subjects, and I think it doesn't spoon feed you all the answers. Much like war journalism as described by Lee, it sort of shows you the story and lets you decide what to think about it. Whether you're appalled or think there is some merit to this version of war journalism, or is it all cynical, it's open to thinking and to discussion from multiple different angles, and I love that. I do want to say a couple of other things. The atmosphere, which I already mentioned, is spectacular, helped by beautiful cinematography and great use of music, but also sound design in general, especially combat, and the loudness of bullets is overwhelming. I think the film does a terrific job of putting you in there with the characters through the use of sound. Performances are great across the board. Kirsten Dunst is fantastic as the tired, exhausted, purposeless veteran. Kaylee Spaney does a great job of showing the eerily quick transition from a naive rookie to a shell-shocked, traumatized person, then to someone who sort of pushes all of those emotions aside and becomes this kind of soulless and person focused purely on the story that they're covering. Jesse Plemons shows up for literally one scene, and he wasn't even supposed to be in the film. Apparently the story is that the original actor dropped out, and Plemons, who's the husband of Kirsten Dunst, was hanging around the set, and she asked Garland, why don't we just use him for this scene? So he's there for one scene, and he immediately steals it away completely. As always, he is magnetic, and as usual, he is utterly terrifying in a very understated, offhand way. Casual monster is how I would describe him. Very creepy and very memorable. Overall, I love this film. It's one of my favorites of the year so far, for sure. And crucially, not only did I enjoy watching it, but I enjoyed thinking about it afterwards. I haven't been able to keep it out of my head since yesterday, and the more I think about it, the more I appreciate it, because it makes you think, which I think is a mark of a great art.